Hi everyone, welcome to lesson 20 of Ignite Your Music Career. I hope you're finding these lessons helpful. I've been communicating back and forth with some of our members and hearing some of their music, and it's great. If you want to have some of your music promoted by us on our Facebook group for Ignite, please get on there and send a note through, and we'll gladly get a link up there and promote you. So that piece of music you just heard, Drops of Morning Dew, came across or was created when I bought a new VST. It's called Rev, R-E-V, and as you can tell, everything in that tune is reversed. So there's many tracks of reverse pianos, reverse guitars, reverse percussion. It's kind of a neat new agey kind of feel, and it's been in a ton of different TV shows, and it still pays today. It was very easy to create. It's a pretty neat tool, actually, Rev. It just gives you different layers of different tones, basically reversed, and you can do all kinds of different things with it. So this week I'm going to talk about working with exclusive music libraries. They all have different workflows, and I want to explain to you guys some of the things that I've come up against, or the types mainly that are out there. They're completely different than non-exclusive libraries. Sometimes when you get into a music library that's non-exclusive, you can basically put your tracks up there when you're done. You know, they're not a part of the creative process and that sort of thing. But exclusive libraries are a lot different. They want to have a hand in things, some to more of an extent than others. Some can be really hard to work with. So I'm going to give you some scenarios of who I work with, basically the process, so that you're prepared for it. It can be quite frustrating with some of them, so I want to kind of explain it to you so that you know what you're up against. You should have music in a bunch of exclusive libraries. Obviously, you can't put the same song in more than one, and you can't put the same song then in a non-exclusive library. But I just kind of want to let you know some of the experiences I had and still have to this day, because I still work with a number of them. Download the free samples. I hope you're finding those useful in creating your songs or your tracks. So let's talk about the workflow scenarios for different types of exclusive music libraries. Okay, so scenario one, I call this scenario briefs and help libraries. These are the type of exclusive libraries, and I've dealt with a number of them, where they'll send you out a brief with reference tracks, a deadline, the type of stuff they're looking for example, the metadata or the keywords or the sound alikes and all that stuff that's in the brief. So what they do in that situation for working with these guys is that you submit full tracks once you're done before the deadline, and if the deadline is 3 weeks or 2 weeks, you kind of want to get your track in there within the first few days or a week. For the only reason that they want to actually have input into that track. So say it's a pop song or indie rock song they want to have a summery feel or a Black Keys feel, that sort of thing. You gotta have your track in there or your song, get it to them. They're gonna listen to it, and they're gonna come back, and they're gonna offer you some pointers on what you can do to fix up that track. It could be something to do with the mix, it could be something to do with hit points, it could be something to do with the lyrics. So that's what I call the brief and help kind of library. So that typically happens a couple of times. So you send them the track, they come back to you and say, hey, you're on the right track with this song or this cue. How about trying this, and that? You go back into your studio or to your DAW and you try that, you submit it again, and they come back to you and say, yes, we like it, or maybe there's one more revision. And you do that, and then they say, great, send me the WAV files, send us the stems, we'll send you the agreement for it. And typically for payments for the libraries like that, or typically you'll get sync fees up front if there's any. Not a lot sometimes though, but back-end royalties for sure once they license it, like any other agreement would be. So that's what I call the brief and help. So they kind of come back and forth to you just a couple of times, make sure you're on the right track, and you've got everything that they want in that queue or song so that they can then start to license it. So that's kind of one scenario. All right, so here we are, scenario number two, and I call this scenario the hands-on library. These are libraries that will send you references, or sometimes a brief, but usually it's just reference tracks. Maybe it's stuff that's already in their library or stuff that they've heard from other libraries, and they want you to write music in that direction. And the reason I call them hands-on is because they're the hardest bunch to work with. I work with one right now that's really hands-on. And in that situation, I do up a track, the full track based on their requirements. I submit it. They'll go through it with a fine-tooth comb. They'll look at it with analyzers and spectrum EQs and all this kind of stuff and really get to the nitty-gritty. They'll send you notes back on the track or the song, and then you fix it up again and you send it back to them again, and they'll go through it again with all their analysis tools and EQs and compression, and then they'll check for everything. They'll come back to you again with some more stuff. I've even got to the point with them where they've gotten quite rude sometimes about it, but also have done kind of weird things like take pictures of their analysis tools and their EQs while the track's playing in a video and send it to me via Facebook or just an email. So they're actually really getting hands-on. They're talking about EQ, they're talking about compression, they're talking about the width of the track or the panning. They're talking about all kinds of stuff. And I've had it where it's gone back and forth 9 to 10 to 12 times. That's why I call them hands-on libraries. So again, the payout for those are, you know, any sync fees that you might have, and also your royalties if they license it. The thing about the hands-on libraries that you got to be careful of is you don't want to get too frustrated, because, you know, some of the stuff they've asked me to do, the human ear can't even hear the difference. You know, bring this down by 0.5 dB, or bring this frequency down or up. And you sit there and you've lived with this track for so long, now you get kind of frustrated, or your EQing is getting, you know, a little wacky, or maybe it's your lyrics they're talking about and you're thinking, you know, I've just written the best 7 sets of lyrics for this song ever. So I wanted to bring this in the lesson because you don't want to get frustrated. Usually they're the higher end libraries, and that's a good thing. They're always trying to get you to bring your A game, and like I said, sometimes it can be a relationship that's, you know, kind of like, you know, kind of goes to and fro kind of thing, a positive, negative, because, you know, we do get a little upset sometimes when people nitpick and nitpick and nitpick over things. So that's one of the situations where, and I don't have a lot of those because I haven't run into that many of them, but there is one main one, and it's a big one, that I do deal with. And you just got to change your mindset as a composer or a songwriter to, you know, kind of go to the thought process where they're trying to bring out the best in you, you know, like an athlete, you know, to train you the best, or get the best out of your product. Because if their product is really good, it's going to be licensed more, which means you're going to make more money too. So that's called the hands-on library. And you can be writing track for them, and it might take weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. So you have to make that decision yourself if you want to put time into that. Like I said, there are payoffs at the end of it. But I just want you to be aware of that kind of situation. So you keep your cool, you just understand where they're coming from, and, you know, everybody will get along great and you can work together. So scenario 3, which I run into a lot, is the short demo submission method, or type of work process. And this happens with a lot of libraries that are attached to networks. So a lot of TV networks have their own library. This one in particular in Canada that I work with has 78 different networks within their space. So I work with the head music person at that library, and what they do is they will contact me, or I'll contact them and say, hey, what are you looking for? Do you want to hear some music, or what styles? What do they need to round out their library? So in that situation, that person will say, okay, yeah, I'm looking for, you know, X number of these types of tracks. It could be dark country, it could be pop songs, it could be ukulele stuff, whatever it might be. So the process there is called the short demo submission. So what I do in that situation, or what they want me to do, is if they're looking for 10 of those tracks, I will demo up the first one, maybe a 20 to 30 second demo of the feel. Doesn't have to be great, it can be rough. I'll run it by them. If that's one they want, they'll say, yes, that's kind of the feel we want. So you're actually trying to find the palette of what they want, right? If you're thinking about colors and stuff. So I'll do the 20 to 30 second demo, I'll submit it, they'll say, yes, we need 10 of those dark country songs, or 10 of those pulsing process music cues. So I say, oh great, they're going to pay me per song up front once I complete the entire 10 song package. So another part of that process is that first 20 to 30 second demo. Now I'm going to go back into my studio and I'm going to complete that tune. So it might be a minute and a half or 2 minutes. Once I do that, I submit it to them as a full track. They like it. They say it's good. It's all mixed, obviously. I put that in a folder. Then I create another 20 to 30 second demo. Number 2. I do the same process again. I send it off. It's rough. Yes, that'll fit the package perfectly. I'll go back into my studio. I'll complete that track. Once it's complete, a minute and a half to 2 minutes, I'll send it off to them again. Yes, that fits perfectly. The mix is great. I'll put that in the folder as well for that package. So I'll do that 10 times, obviously, because they want 10 tracks. Once I had those 10 tracks done and mixed, for them, in this situation, I have to stem them out, which we'll talk about in one of our lessons. I stem them out, I complete the package, any metadata requirements I have, and in this situation it's 1 page, so I've got 10 tracks in 10 folders in one main folder, and they've heard every one of these little demos that I've done and the full tracks, all the stems. I send it off, and then they send me a payment method. It's an invoice kind of thing. I do that for them. Do it all online, and then I get paid 60 days later for the tracks. It might be $500 a track. And then I get the royalties on the back end of it, the writer's share. So that's that situation. So it's little tiny short demos. I ship them off, they're rough. I do them one at a time, so I don't do 10 demos and then send them off. I do one, get work on a song, do another one, finish the song, and that sort of thing. So you'll see that a little bit too. So that's kind of a short demo submission process for an exclusive library. Okay, so scenario number 4 is to submit a full album to a library. You'll see this a lot in exclusive libraries. Sometimes you'll see it in situations where they have this setup where you can have your tracks in their library, and then they might ask you to do an artist series, so your name is on it and your face and some neat logo or design and that sort of thing. So the way the process works for that is you're communicating back and forth with the person that's your contact there. And you say, hey, I've got this great pitch idea. I want to do a country hip-hop 10-song album to put in your library. Do you have any space for that? And they might go, yeah, we don't have a lot of that music in here. Or maybe they say, we get enough of that. How about something else? Can you do a ukulele album? Anyway, that's kind of a discussion back and forth. So once you discuss that back and forth and you agree on the terms, how it's going to work is that once you complete that 10 or 15 or 20, whatever amount of music or songs it is for the album, you're going to submit them all and they're going to pay you again up front for that, and then you're going to get 50% on the back end. In that situation though, you do not submit anything until you finish all of the cues or all of the songs. Along the way, depending on your relationship with them, along the creative process, you may, jump in with them on an email or a Zoom call or something and say, hey, this is the progress point I'm at right now. Maybe I've got 4 done. Any deadlines are discussed, obviously, too. But in that situation, there's not a lot of demos going back and forth. You don't send them a song after each one is done, like you would in scenario 1, say, or scenario 2 that we talked about. So it's more of the whole concept of the album. So maybe it's a dark country album or a dark country hip-hop album or a indie rock or indie pop song album, about summer. Sometimes they get really kind of narrowed down to what they want. Maybe they just want all lyrics about summer for all 10 of those songs. So if you're a songwriter, it's going to take you some time to do that. Maybe they want a lot of rap, and the theme is going to be, for ESPN type sports shows. That one's come across my desk a lot. So all kinds of different things, but it's all wrapped in the album concept. Now sometimes they'll say, in this situation for this deal too, is, okay, we love that idea or that concept. You go away and do that album and then submit it, within a month or 2 months, whenever the deadline is. Sometimes there is no deadline. You just work on it because we're all working on different projects. You work on it in your spare time, maybe. Once you're done, you go back and it's almost like a repitch situation, and you say, hey, I'm done. Here's what it sounds like. And then your payment stuff is worked out, which is previously you already talked about. And then you submit the entire package to them. So that's another different type of scenario. All right, so we discussed 4 scenarios for working with exclusive libraries, the workflow possibilities. Get used to them all. There are a few more out there too, but they don't vary that much from the ones I just discussed. Again, when you get to that, the situation where you might get frustrated, or if they're being really nitpicky about different things and things like that, you can gauge your relationship with any library you're working with, right? Some libraries that I work with, I don't get them a lot of music just because I don't feel like they're pitching it right, or they're not pitching it enough, or it's not getting licensed enough. You always gauge all of the libraries, exclusive or non-exclusive, whichever ones work best for you to make the most money. That's the goal of this, right? So look at those scenarios. I'm sure you're going to run into them. You might have already run into them if you're working with exclusive libraries. I think you should work with exclusive libraries. It's important. If you haven't worked with any of them yet, try to work with one. Do a little research. I'm going to probably talk about some of the top ones that you should try in a few lessons from now. But get out there and understand how their process works. There's another scenario where I just, sometimes I'll write a queue and I'll just contact one of them and say, hey, is this something that you're looking for a show or an ad or anything right now? And they might say yes, I might say no. That's kind of the relationship you have back and forth. Whereas a non-exclusive library, you just kind of submit or upload all the time for the most part. So anyway, if you want us to promote your stuff, like I said, send us a message on our Facebook page for Ignite. Download the free samples. If you need any help or any questions answered or suggestions for lessons, which I'm getting coming in right now, which is great, let me know and be creative.